In my line of work, I fix things. Too bad nobody trained me to fix a marriage shorting out like a cheap Christmas tree. My name's Grant Hollister, and I'm 42 years old with calloused hands that smell like electrical tape and broken dreams. I've been wiring buildings in this Rust Belt suburb outside Detroit for 20 years, and I thought I knew everything about circuits. Turns out, I didn't know jack about the one running through my own house. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. It started with Nora's new work clothes. My wife of 15 years suddenly needed silk blouses that cost more than my weekly paycheck and skirts that could double as napkins. She'd parade around our cramped apartment like she was heading to some corporate fashion show instead of planning birthday parties for rich kids. "You should be more ambitious, babe," she'd say, adjusting her push-up bra in our bedroom mirror. "Look at successful people. They don't settle for fixing other people's problems." Right. Because planning Sweet 16 parties for spoiled brats was clearly the path to enlightenment. The late nights came next. Emergency events, she called them. Apparently, rich people's emergencies happened exclusively between 9 p.m. and 3 a.m., and they all required Nora's personal attention. Her boss, Calder Voss, seemed to have an unusual number of after-hours crises. "He's teaching me the business," Nora explained, checking her lipstick for the third time. "Hands-on experience, you know?" Yeah, I was starting to get the picture. My best friend Moose Martinez found the whole thing hilarious. We were nursing beers at Murphy's Tavern, our usual dive bar that smelled like stale cigarettes and shattered expectations, when I mentioned Nora's new schedule. Corporate types and their after-parties. Moose laughed, his security guard uniform still wrinkled from his day shift. "Next thing you know, she'll be working weekends too." He wasn't wrong. Saturday team-building exercises became a regular thing. Sunday client meetings followed shortly after. The real kicker came at the neighborhood barbecue last month. I was flipping burgers on our rusted grill when Janelle Morrison sidled up with that look women get when they're about to destroy your life with gossip. "Grant, honey," she whispered, glancing around like she was sharing state secrets. "I hope you don't mind me saying, but Nora's been getting a lot of attention lately. That boss of hers, Calder? He's got wandering hands, if you know what I mean." I knew exactly what she meant. I'd met Calder Voss exactly once, at last year's company Christmas party. 46 years old, silver hair, expensive suit, and the kind of smile that said he'd never worked an honest day in his life. He'd shaken my hand with soft fingers and looked at me like I was something stuck to his shoe. "Nora's a smart girl," Janelle continued, "but sometimes smart girls make stupid choices for the right reasons. Or stupid reasons. Hard to tell the difference sometimes." That night, I found Nora's tablet charging on the kitchen counter. The screen lit up with a text notification. I shouldn't have looked. I should have minded my own business and gone to bed like a good husband. But I looked. The message was from someone labeled C-Boss. "Can't wait for tonight's private consultation. Wear something that shows off your assets." Nora's response made my stomach drop. "Already picked out something special. My husband could learn a lot from you." The tablet buzzed again. Another message from C-Boss. "After tonight, he won't matter anymore." I stood in our kitchen, holding that tablet like it was a live wire, watching 15 years of marriage dissolve into pixels and betrayal. The refrigerator hummed, the clock ticked. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barked. At 3:05 a.m., I was still sitting at our kitchen table when Nora stumbled through the front door. Her dress was wrinkled, her lipstick was gone, and she was giggling like a teenager who'd just gotten away with something. "Grant, what are you doing up?" She kicked off her heels and swayed slightly. "You should be sleeping." "Couldn't sleep? How was your emergency?" "Oh, you know." She waved her hand dismissively. "Crisis averted. Calder really knows how to handle pressure. You could learn a lot from him." She disappeared into our bedroom, leaving me alone with the smell of another man's cologne and the sound of my world cracking like faulty wiring. Yeah, I thought. I could learn a lot from Calder Voss, like how to ruin a marriage in under 10 minutes. While Nora slept off her work dinner, I quietly packed my essentials. 20 years of electrical work teaches you to be methodical. You don't rush, you don't make mistakes. You plan every connection before you make it. First, I synced her phone to our laptop. Nora always was careless with technology. Same password for everything. Success 2024, real creative. It took me 15 minutes to download weeks of text messages, photos, and voice notes. The evidence was worse than I'd imagined. Explicit texts that would make a sailor blush. Photos of Calder's office after hours, with Nora bent over his desk like she was checking the grain in the wood. Voice messages where she bragged about breaking in the new conference table and mocked my rough electrician hands. My personal favorite was a text from 3 weeks ago. Grant's working late again. Poor baby doesn't know his wife prefers quarterly reports to power tools. Some men buy flowers for their wives. Mine preferred profit margins and a mahogany desk. I copied everything to 3 different flash drives and uploaded it all to a secure cloud account. Then I called Moose. "Jesus, Grant, it's 5 a.m, he answered, voice thick with sleep. "I need your garage and your truck." "What happened?" "Nora happened. Can you help me move some stuff?" Moose was at my apartment in 20 minutes, wearing yesterday's clothes and yesterday's stubble. He took one look at my packed bags and nodded. "That bad?" "Worse." We loaded my tools, clothes, and electronics into his pickup truck. 20 years of marriage and everything I actually cared about fit in the bed of a Ford F-150. Before leaving, I wrote Nora a note and left it on the coffee maker where she'd find it first thing. "Nora, found your text messages, found your photos, found your voicemails. Good luck explaining this to everyone else because they're going to find them too. You always said you wanted more excitement in your life. Congratulations. You could learn a lot from me too. Grant P.S. Check your bank account." I'd withdrawn my half of our joint savings and checking accounts, every penny I'd contributed over the years. I changed all the passwords on our shared accounts and canceled my name from the lease. My wedding ring went on top of the coffee maker, right next to the note. Then I did something that would have made Calder Voss proud. I played dirty. I forwarded everything, every text, every photo, every disgusting voice message, to the HR department at Nora's company. The email went to 3 different managers, including the department head who'd hired Nora in the first place. But here's the kicker. I also BCC'd Lisa Chen, Calder's administrative assistant. I'd met Lisa at that Christmas party, and she'd seemed like the only decent person in the whole company. More importantly, I'd noticed how uncomfortable she looked whenever Calder was around. The subject line read, "Evidence of workplace harassment and misconduct, Calder Voss and Nora Hollister." I hit send at 6:47 a.m. on a Tuesday morning, right when the early birds in HR would be checking their email with their first cup of coffee. By the time Nora woke up, I was gone. By the time she found my note, I was eating breakfast at Murphy's Tavern. By the time she called my phone screaming, I was already planning phase 2. Moose slid a cup of coffee across the table and grinned. "So what's the plan, boss?" Ever hear the phrase, controlled demolition? Sure. You bring down a building without damaging anything around it. Exactly. I pulled out my phone and showed him a text from Nora. "Grant, please call me. We need to talk. This is all a misunderstanding." Misunderstanding? I laughed. The only thing I misunderstood was thinking I married someone with a conscience. My phone buzzed again. Another text. "I can explain everything." Then another. "Calder means nothing to me." And another. "Please don't ruin my career." I turned the phone face down and looked at Moose. "You know what the best part about being an electrician is?" "What's that?" "When something's broken beyond repair, you don't try to fix it. You replace it." Nora's world started falling apart at exactly 9:23 a.m. That's when Lisa Chen printed out every text message, every photo, and every voice recording I'd sent to HR. She didn't just file them away in some bureaucratic folder. She accidentally left copies in the break room, the copy machine, and taped to the bathroom mirror. By 10 a.m., half the office knew that their star event planner was sleeping with the boss. By 11 a.m., the other half knew exactly what position she preferred. My phone rang constantly. Nora, Nora, Nora. I let every call go to voicemail. "Grant, please, you have to listen to me. This isn't what it looks like." "I made a mistake. One stupid mistake. Don't throw away 15 years over this." Calder took advantage of me. He said he'd fire me if we didn't. That last one almost made me laugh. Calder took advantage of her? The same Nora who texted him photos of herself in our bedroom? The same Nora who bragged about christening his office furniture? Right. Poor victim Nora. At noon, I got a call from an unknown number. "Mr. Hollister, this is James Ellis from Human Resources at Premier Events. We need to speak with you about some materials you sent us." "What about them?" "Well, sir, these are some serious allegations. We're launching an immediate investigation into Mr. Voss's conduct. We may need you to provide testimony." "I'll provide whatever you need. And, sir, I want you to know that this company doesn't tolerate this kind of behavior. Mr. Voss has been suspended pending our review." Suspended. Not fired, but it was a start. That afternoon, I was installing new wiring in a downtown office building when Moose called. "You need to get down to Murphy's, now." "Why?" "Because your wife just walked in, and she's not alone." I found Nora sitting in a corner booth with Janelle Morrison, both of them looking like they'd been crying. Or drinking. Possibly both. Nora saw me first. She jumped up so fast she knocked over her chair. "Grant, thank God. We need to talk." "No, we don't. Please, just give me 5 minutes to explain." "Explain what? How you accidentally fell onto your boss's desk? Multiple times?" Janelle stood up, wobbling slightly. "Now you listen here, Grant Hollister. Nora made a mistake, but she doesn't deserve... Doesn't deserve what? The consequences of her actions? You're being cruel," Janelle slurred. "Marriage is about forgiveness. Marriage is about trust and honesty, and not screwing your boss while your husband's working 60-hour weeks to pay the bills." Nora's face crumpled. "I never meant for this to happen. Calder, he seduced me." "Seduced you?" I pulled out my phone and scrolled through the screenshots I'd saved. "Is that what we're calling it when you text him photos of yourself in our bed?" The entire bar went quiet. Even the jukebox seemed to pause. "Grant, please," Nora whispered. "Don't do this here." "Do what? Tell the truth? Isn't that what marriage counselors always recommend? Honesty?" Janelle stepped between us, her face flushed with alcohol and righteous indignation. "You're humiliating her." "I'm humiliating her?" I laughed. "Lady, she humiliated herself. I'm just making sure everyone knows about it." That's when Janelle made her mistake. She pulled out her phone and started recording. "Everyone needs to see what kind of man you really are," she announced loudly. "Destroying your wife's reputation over one little mistake." "One little mistake?" I looked directly into her camera. "Janelle, would you like me to read some of Nora's text messages out loud? Because I've got them all right here." Janelle's face went pale. She lowered the phone. "That's what I thought." I looked at Nora one last time. "Don't worry, sweetheart. HR will be calling you Monday morning. I'm sure Calder will put in a good word for you." I walked out of Murphy's Tavern and didn't look back. Behind me, I heard Nora start crying again. Then I heard Janelle's voice, shrill and panicked. "Did anyone else record that? Please tell me someone else got that on video." But I was already gone, and Phase 3 was just beginning. Calder Voss, it turned out, didn't handle pressure well. By Wednesday morning, he was texting Nora constantly. Not love messages anymore. These were pure panic. Lisa Chen had been forwarding me copies of everything that crossed Calder's desk, and the man was losing his mind. "This is all your fault," one message read. "I told you to be discreet." Another, "If I go down, you're coming with me." And my personal favorite, "Your husband is a psychopath. We need to destroy him before he destroys us." Destroy me? With what? The truth? Thursday afternoon, Calder made his first real mistake. He showed up at Nora's apartment building, drunk and belligerent. Mrs. Patterson from 2B called the police when she heard him screaming in the hallway about that electrician bastard and teaching working-class trash a lesson. The cops didn't arrest him, but they did file a report. Public intoxication and disturbing the peace. Not exactly the image Premier Events wanted for their senior management. That's when I decided Calder needed a more personal touch. I knew where he lived, a luxury condo downtown with assigned parking and a doorman who probably made more than I did. I also knew what he drove, a silver BMW that cost more than most people's houses. Saturday night, while Calder was presumably drowning his sorrows at some upscale bar, I paid his car a visit. And nothing illegal, mind you. Nothing that would get me arrested. Just some creative maintenance, a pound of sugar in the gas tank, rewired the horn to blast every 30 seconds, loosened the bolts on his license plate so it would rattle, and the piece de resistance, a rotten fish wedged deep into his air conditioning vent. Moose filmed the whole thing on his phone. "Some men key cars," I explained to the camera. "I prefer a little more amperage." Sunday morning, I got a furious call from Nora. "What did you do to Calder's car?" "Fixed some wiring issues." "Why?" "It won't start, and it smells like a seafood restaurant. He knows it was you." "Prove it." "Grant, this has to stop. You're ruining both our lives." "I'm not ruining anything. I'm just making sure everyone sees what you two really are." "What we are? What about what you are? A bitter, vindictive man who can't forgive one mistake." "One mistake?" I laughed. "Nora, I've got 3 months of text messages, photos dating back to January, voice recordings where you mock our marriage. This wasn't one mistake. This was a deliberate campaign to humiliate me." Silence on the other end. "I want a divorce," she finally whispered. "Good. My lawyer will be in touch." Monday morning, I served her with separation papers at her apartment. She'd been fired from Premier Events, of course. Calder, too, once the investigation concluded. Turns out, sleeping with subordinates and using company resources for personal affairs violates all sorts of corporate policies. Who knew? The papers included a detailed list of her infidelity, complete with dates, times, and photographic evidence. Everything legal and above board, just like my lawyer recommended. "You're destroying me," Nora said, standing in her doorway in a bathrobe that had seen better days. "No," I replied. "You destroyed yourself. I'm just making sure you can't take me down with you." That afternoon, Calder finally grew a spine. He showed up at the construction site where I was working, his BMW still reeking of rotting fish. "You son of a bitch," he screamed, storming across the job site in his expensive suit. "You think you can ruin my life?" I was holding a live electrical cable, testing circuits in a new office building. I looked up calmly as he approached. "Careful, Calder. This is a construction zone. Lots of dangerous equipment around here. I'm going to sue you for everything you're worth." "For what? Telling the truth?" He took a swing at me. I sidestepped easily. 42 years of honest work keeps you in better shape than sitting behind a desk screwing other men's wives. Calder stumbled and nearly fell into a pile of construction materials. "You want to try that again?" I asked, still holding the live wire. "Because one little zap from this cable, and you'll light up like a Christmas tree. Want to test me?" Calder looked at the wire, looked at my face, and apparently decided he valued his life more than his pride. He backed away slowly. "This isn't over," he muttered. "Yeah, it is." I smiled. "Check your bank account, Calder. I hear unemployment doesn't pay much." He fled to his stinking BMW and drove away, leaving me alone with my coworkers who'd witnessed the whole thing. "Damn Grant," said Tommy, one of the younger electricians. "What did that guy do to you?" "He screwed my wife, so I screwed his life." "Fair trade," Tommy nodded approvingly. But I wasn't done yet. Not even close. That evening, I got a call from Lisa Chen. "Mr. Hollister, I think you should know. Calder hired a private investigator. He's trying to dig up dirt on you." "Let him dig. I've got nothing to hide." "There's something else. He's planning something for the charity gala next weekend. Premier Events is still contracted to handle it, and he's threatening to show up." "What kind of something?" "I don't know, but he's been making calls, trying to gather allies. He wants to turn this whole thing around, make you look like the bad guy." I thought about that for a moment. A charity gala, lots of witnesses. Calder's last chance to salvage his reputation by destroying mine. "Lisa, do you still have access to the guest list?" "I might." "Why?" "Because I think it's time for the final act." The charity gala was scheduled for Saturday night at the Riverside Pavilion, one of those fancy outdoor venues where rich people gather to feel good about themselves while eating $100 steaks. Premier Events had been contracted to handle the whole thing months ago, back when Calder still had a job and Nora still had a reputation. Now the company was scrambling to salvage the event without their 2-star employees. Perfect. I spent the week gathering intelligence. Lisa Chen proved invaluable. She still had access to company emails and was more than happy to share Calder's desperate attempts to rebuild his image. He'd been calling clients, trying to spin the story. According to him, I was a jealous, unstable husband who'd fabricated evidence to destroy an innocent workplace friendship. Nora was the victim of my blue-collar rage and working-class resentment. The narrative was almost believable. Almost. Wednesday. I made an anonymous call to Premier Events' biggest client, the law firm hosting Saturday's gala. "I think you should know," I told the managing partner's secretary, "that your event planner has been involved in some serious misconduct. You might want to look into it before your reputation gets damaged by association." I emailed copies of the text messages and photos to 3 different partners at the firm. By Thursday, they'd pulled their contract and demanded a full refund. Nora, meanwhile, had moved in with her mother in the suburbs. According to Janelle Morrison, who was now posting regular updates on Facebook like this was her personal soap opera, my wife was devastated and seeking therapy to deal with my emotional abuse. Emotional abuse. That's what we're calling consequences now. Friday evening, I got the call I'd been waiting for. "Grant, it's Lisa. Calder's definitely planning something for tomorrow night. He's not officially invited, but he's been bragging about having a surprise for you." "What kind of surprise?" "I think he's going to try to turn the whole thing into a public confrontation, make you look unstable in front of all those people." "Is Nora going to be there?" "She's supposed to help with the event setup, even though she's not employed anymore. Some kind of contractual obligation." "Perfect. All the players in one place." "Lisa, I need a favor. Can you get me on the guest list?" I don't know if that's a good idea. Trust me, it's time to end this thing properly." Saturday night arrived with a thunderstorm that seemed designed for dramatic effect. The Riverside Pavilion was lit up like a movie set, with white tents and string lights that flickered ominously in the wind. I arrived at 8 p.m. wearing my best suit, which admittedly wasn't saying much, and carrying a briefcase full of evidence. Moose was with me, dressed in his security uniform and looking official enough to blend in with the hired help. "You sure about this?" he asked as we approached the entrance. "Absolutely not, but we're doing it anyway." The gala was in full swing. 300 people in expensive clothes, eating expensive food, and pretending to care about whatever charity was benefiting from their tax-deductible donations. I spotted Nora immediately. She was near the catering station, wearing a black dress I'd never seen before and looking like she'd rather be anywhere else. Dark circles under her eyes, nervous gestures, constantly checking her phone. Calder was harder to find, but I eventually located him near the bar, holding court with a small group of men in expensive suits. He was animated, gesturing wildly, probably telling his version of recent events. "There he is," Moose muttered. "What's the plan?" Before I could answer, the lights went out. The entire pavilion plunged into darkness. Emergency lighting kicked in a few seconds later, but it was dim and eerie. People started murmuring, then talking louder, then getting genuinely concerned. "Ladies and gentlemen," a voice announced over the sound system, "we're experiencing a temporary power outage. Please remain calm while we address the situation." That's when I realized what was happening. Calder hadn't just planned a confrontation, he'd planned a spectacle. The power outage wasn't an accident. "Moose," I whispered, "did you cut the main power?" "Hell yes, I did. You said you wanted dramatic timing." I stared at him. "I never said that." "You implied it." Before I could respond, a spotlight suddenly illuminated the small stage where the evening speakers had been making their presentations, and standing in that spotlight, holding a wireless microphone, was Calder Voss. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced, his voice carrying clearly through the darkness. "I apologize for the dramatic interruption, but I felt it was important to address some serious allegations that have been made against me." "Oh, hell no." "My name is Calder Voss, and I've been the victim of a vicious campaign of harassment and defamation by a disturbed individual who couldn't handle his wife's professional success." The crowd was listening now, drawn by the drama and the darkness and the sheer audacity of what was happening. "Grant Hollister," Calder continued, "is somewhere in this crowd tonight. He spent the last 2 weeks trying to destroy my reputation and my career because his wife, Nora, received a promotion he felt she didn't deserve." Murmurs from the audience. I could feel people looking around, trying to spot me in the dim emergency lighting. Mr. Hollister has fabricated evidence, made false accusations, and engaged in criminal harassment because he couldn't accept that his wife was more successful than he was. That's when I'd heard enough. "Actually," I called out, stepping into the light, "that's not quite how it happened." The spotlight swung toward me. 300 faces turned in my direction. Calder's expression shifted from confident to panicked in about 2 seconds. "Grant Hollister," I announced, walking toward the stage, "and I've got a few things to say about Mr. Voss's version of events." This was it, the final circuit. Time to see if my wiring would hold. "Ladies and gentlemen," I said, climbing onto the stage as Calder backed away from the microphone. "My name is Grant Hollister, and I'm an electrician. I fix things that are broken. Unfortunately, I can't fix what's broken in my marriage, but I can sure as hell shed some light on what really happened here." The crowd was completely silent now. Even the thunder seemed to pause for dramatic effect. "Mr. Voss just told you that I fabricated evidence against him, that I'm some kind of jealous, unstable husband who couldn't handle his wife's success." I pulled out my phone. "Let me share some of that fabricated evidence with you." Calder lunged for the microphone. "You can't do this. This is harassment." "This is the truth." I sidestepped him easily. "And the truth has a way of coming out, doesn't it, Calder?" I held up my phone, and Moose, bless his heart, had somehow connected it to the sound system. Nora's voice filled the pavilion, crystal clear and unmistakably hers. "Grant's working late again tonight. Poor baby doesn't know his wife prefers quarterly reports to power tools. Calder, you make me feel like a real woman, not some electrician's housewife." Gasps from the audience. I could see Nora near the catering table, her face white as the tablecloths. "That was recorded 3 weeks ago," I announced. "Here's another one from last month." Another voice message played. "I can't believe how naive Grant is. He actually thinks I'm working late for legitimate reasons. If he only knew what his precious wife was doing on his conference table." More gasps. Someone in the crowd said, "Oh my God." Calder was frantically looking around, probably trying to find security or an exit or maybe just a hole to crawl into. "But wait," I continued. "There's more. How about some text messages? I scrolled through the screenshots I'd saved. Here's one from Calder to my wife. Your husband's rough hands are nothing compared to what I can do for your career. And here's Nora's response. Grant could learn a lot from you about how to treat a woman. The crowd was getting restless now. Angry murmurs, people pulling out their phones, probably recording everything. You want to know what really happened? I looked directly at Calder. This man used his position of power to seduce my wife, then convinced her to mock and humiliate me behind my back. They turned my marriage into their private joke. Calder grabbed for the microphone again. This is all taken out of context. You're destroying two innocent people. Innocent? I laughed. Calder, would you like me to show everyone the photos? Because I've got those too. His face went pale. You wouldn't. Try me. That's when Nora finally found her voice. She pushed through the crowd toward the stage, her face streaked with tears and mascara. Grant, please, stop this. You're humiliating me. I'm humiliating you? I stared at her in disbelief. Nora, you humiliated yourself. You humiliated our marriage. You humiliated 15 years of trust and love and commitment. I'm just making sure everyone knows what you really are. What I really am? She climbed onto the stage, her voice rising to match mine. I'm a woman who made a mistake. One stupid mistake. 3 months of mistakes, I corrected. 3 months of lies and betrayal and laughing at your husband behind his back. I never meant for it to go this far. But you meant for it to go somewhere, didn't you? You meant to cheat. You meant to lie. You meant to make me look like a fool while you screwed your boss. The crowd was eating this up. Phones everywhere, recording every word. This was going to be all over social media within the hour. Calder made one last desperate play. He rushed toward me, probably thinking he could tackle me or grab the microphone or somehow salvage this disaster. Big mistake. I sidestepped him again, and he stumbled forward, arms windmilling, trying to catch his balance. He crashed into the refreshment table behind the stage, sending punch bowls and champagne glasses flying. Red punch splashed across his expensive suit, and he went down hard, landing in a pile of catered shrimp and cocktail sauce. The crowd erupted in laughter and applause. Someone shouted, "That's what you get!" Another voice yelled, "Karma's a bitch!" Calder struggled to his feet, dripping with punch and humiliation. Shrimp cocktail in his hair. He pointed a shaking finger at me. You psychopath. I'll sue you for everything you're worth." "With what money?" I asked calmly. "You're unemployed, remember? And after tonight, you're unemployable." He looked around desperately, realizing that 300 people with phones had just watched him confess to everything and then faceplant into a seafood buffet. "This isn't over," he snarled. "Yeah, it is." I smiled and spoke directly into the microphone for the last time. "You could learn a lot from me, Calder, like how to go down swinging." Security finally arrived. Real security, not moose, and escorted both Calder and Nora out of the pavilion. The crowd was still buzzing with excitement, probably the most entertainment they'd had at a charity gala in years. As the lights came back on and people started returning to their conversations, I felt a hand on my shoulder. It was Lisa Chen, smiling for the first time since I'd met her. "That was incredible," she said. "Calder's been harassing women at that company for years. Someone needed to expose him." "Happy to help." Moose appeared with 2 beers and a grin that could light up Detroit. "Well, boss, I'd say that went pretty well." I took the beer and looked out at the crowd, still talking animatedly about what they'd just witnessed. Nora and Calder were gone, their reputations in ruins, their careers destroyed, their lies exposed to the world. Some circuits, once blown, are better left unfixed. I raised my beer to Moose and smiled. "You know what the best part about this whole thing is?" "What's that?" "I didn't have to lie once, not once. I just told the truth and let them destroy themselves." Thunder rolled across the sky, the storm finally breaking, and I stood there in the aftermath of 15 years of marriage, soaked in rain but somehow feeling cleaner than I had in months. The lights flickered one more time, then held steady.